Njideka catwalked down the village street, her newly acquired feminine curves swaying like a pendulum, casting a spell over every man she passed. Their eyes widened, jaws dropped, and some even forgot to breathe, standing frozen like statues as if Njideka had hit them with a powerful charm. One man walked straight into a tree, his gaze never leaving her attractive hips, while another spilled his bowl of ofe egusi, completely hypnotized by Njideka's mesmerizing figure. How did this magical transformation happen? Sit back and enjoy the hilarious tale of Mbojiso, his cunning wife Njideka, and their mischievous twin son, Emeka and Ikenna. In the ancient Igbo kingdom of Umuago, wealth was the true measure of a man, and for poor Mbojiso, it seemed that God had not deemed him fit for any blessings. Living in a small mud hut with his wife Njideka and their twin sons, Emeka and Ikenna, Mbojiso was the village's laughingstock, while the men of Umuago hunted expensive game and cheated in trade for cool cash. Mbojiso, a simple subsistent farmer, did neither. Not out of integrity, but because the mere thought of taking risk or dealing with stress was something he was not cut out for. Njideka, on her part, never hesitated to lambast her husband for their miserable state. She often grumbled, "If only I had curves like my sister Chiamaka, I would have married a rich man instead of you and your lizard belly." But alas, her plain figure meant that no wealthy suitor ever came calling, leaving her stuck with Mbojiso, much to her eternal chagrin. Their sons, Emeka and Ikenna, were no better. At just 10 years old, they were already little terrors, stealing and making noise all over the village. Even they made fun of their parents' poverty. "Papa, why are we so poor?" they would tease, much to their father's dismay. Mbojiso could only sigh in response, knowing that in a village full of cunning traders and daring hunters, he was the odd man out. One fateful day, as Mbojiso was wandering through the village, he stumbled upon an old blind man sitting by the roadside, holding a handful of coins, some gold, some silver. The old man cried out for help, asking for someone to separate the coins for him. The villagers, being the sharp and dubious lot they were, took advantage of the man, pocketing the gold and silver coins and leaving him with worthless copper. But when the blind man called out to Mbojiso, something strange happened. Without thinking twice, Mbojiso dutifully separated the coins, handing the gold and the silver back to the old man before turning to leave. "Wait," the old man called out, and as Mbojiso turned around, he was shocked to see that the old man's eyes were now clear and sharp. The man laughed heartily at Mbojiso's wide-eyed stare and revealed that he was no ordinary man, but a spirit ancestor testing his descendants. "Since you were honest with me," the old man said, "I will grant you 7 wishes, 1 for each day over the next week. But be warned, you can't wish for more wishes, nor can you wish death upon another." Before Mbojiso could respond, the old man vanished, leaving him standing there, stunned. Mbojiso ran home as fast as his legs could carry him, bursting through the door of their little hut, gasping for breath. Njideka, who was busy preparing their dinner, looked up in surprise. "What is wrong with you, Mbojiso? Have you finally gone mad?" she asked, hands on her hips. "I met an old man, a spirit ancestor. He gave me 7 wishes," Mbojiso blurted out, his voice a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Njideka, ever the skeptic, rolled her eyes.
7 wishes? Ha! If you had any sense, you would wish for wealth, or a bigger house, or better yet, wish for a big stomach, like all the successful men in this village. I'm tired of looking at your lizard belly."
At first, Mbojiso tried to brush her off, But Njideka, relentless as ever, kept pestering and mocking him until he caved in to get back at her. He angrily said, "Okay then, I wish for a big belly." No sooner had the words left his mouth than once his flat stomach ballooned out, growing large, round like a drum. Both husband and wife stared at the miraculous sight in shock. "You foolish woman, you made me waste a wish on this," Mbojiso cried, clutching his newly expanded belly. "So it's true," Njideka shouted back, her eyes wide with astonishment. "And you big fool, you wish for a big belly instead of something useful," she said. As they argued angrily, their twin sons, Emeka and Ikenna, wandered in from outside. Seeing their father's new absurd figure, they burst out laughing, pointing and mocking him. "Papa, what happened to you? Did you swallow a pot?" Emeka teased, while Ikenna doubled over in laughter. And so, in typical Mbojiso fashion, the first of his 7 wishes was wasted on nothing more than a belly full of trouble, leaving both him and Njideka to wonder what the next 6 days would bring. As the night deepened, Mbojiso lay on the tattered mat, tossing and turning like a restless fish out of the water. His newly acquired pot belly was as uncomfortable as it was ridiculous. Meanwhile, his wife Njideka was pacing around the small mud hut, her mind spinning like a village gossip's tongue. She wasn't thinking about the burden her husband carried, but was instead plotting how she could use the remaining 6 wishes. Yes, in her mind, the wishes were hers, not Mbojiso. After all, she mused, who else but me should decide how to spend these blessings? Njideka had always dreamed of having a curvaceous figure like her sister Chiamaka. Njideka had a straight, plain figure like an abandoned yam stick. Chiamaka, on the other hand, was well-shaped, attracting suitors like flies to ride fruit. Njideka's frustration boiled over as she envisioned herself with the curves of a goddess. But while she fantasized, Mbojiso lay groaning like a goat in labor, his bloated belly making sleep impossible. Very early the next day, unable to bear the discomfort any longer, Mbojiso used his second wish. "I wish for this big belly to disappear," he muttered, and instantly his belly shrunk back to its usual pitiful size. Relieved, he sighed, but his relief was short-lived. When Njideka noticed that the belly was no more, she flew into a rage.
"You useless man,"
she screamed.
"You wasted another wish. You empty-headed yam. Now we have only 5 left. Iwugambia, Unyenzuzu."
Her voice was loud. The twins had to rush to their parents' room to find out what was happening. And at that moment, Njideka threw a pot at her husband's head. Mbojiso ducked, but the pot, instead of hitting its target, smashed into Ikenna's head as the twins walked in. Ikenna crumbled like a wet rag and fell into a coma. They rushed him to a native doctor, but his efforts were as effective as pouring water on a stone. Ikenna remained almost lifeless. The next morning, Mbojiso, with a heavy heart, used his 3rd wish. "I wish for my son to recover." Ikenna instantly sprang back to life, but Njideka was furious.
"Chimo, you have wasted yet another wish, you goat-headed man."
Njideka fumed.
"We could have waited for him to recover on his own, but no, you had to play the hero and squander yet another wish."
Mbojiso was livid. "How can you say that?" he yelled. "Our son was half dead because of your foolishness, and now you are complaining? What do you want from me? What do you want exactly for me to wish for next, Njideka?" he asked with so much anger. Without missing a beat, Njideka replied,
"I want to be the most curvaceous woman in the whole village of Umuagu, so all the men will admire me."
Mbojiso looked at his wife with disgust. "Vanity upon vanity," he muttered. Tomorrow morning, you will wake up with your wish granted, so you can finally leave me in peace." Emeka, who had been eavesdropping, couldn't stay silent any longer. He stepped out boldly, though only 10 years old, and said, "So, Mama, this our poverty doesn't disgust you. Instead of wishing for riches, you want to waste a wish on feminine curves?" "It's none of your business, Emeka," Njideka snapped. "And for your information, I have plans for the remaining wishes. First, I'll wish for all the gold coins in the world. Then, I'll wish for Chiamaka's death, that foolish sister of mine who mocks me for being flat-chested. And finally, I'll wish for long life." "Wow, Mama," Emeka said, amazed. "I thought Papa was the one with the wishes, but it seems you have hijacked them all. Papa, are you going to just sit there like a carved Iroko tree? When will you be a man and make decisions for yourself?" Njideka, annoyed, knocked her son's head. "Shut up and don't talk when elders are speaking." "I will talk," Emeka retorted. "You almost killed my twin brother, and now you want to waste the remaining wishes." The two of them barked at each other like quarreling dogs until Mbojiso, fed up, shouted in frustration, "I wish you two would just shut up." And just like that, Njideka and Emeka's lips sealed tight, as if glued together. They were rendered completely mute. Mbojiso had mistakenly used his fourth wish in anger, and now he was filled with regret. The next morning, Njideka and Emeka were still dumb, their mouths glued shut. Realizing his mistake, Mbojiso sighed heavily. "I wish their lips would unseal," he muttered, using up his fifth wish. Instantly, their lips became free and they could speak again. Njideka wasted no time.
"You big-headed fool,"
she yelled.
"Do you see what you have done? Now we have only 2 wishes left."
Mbojiso shook his head in despair. 2 wishes left, he echoed, "and at this rate, I might not live to see them through," he said with so much sadness. Njideka waited until the day was about to break, her heart pounding with determination. She quietly slid out of the bed and tiptoed to the kitchen, where she placed a sharp knife in the burning fire, watching the blade turn red hot. The dim light of the flames flickered ominously on her face, reflecting the wide glint in her eyes. As she noticed her husband, Mbojiso, staring in his sleep, she crept back to his side, her breath shallow and her grip tight around the heated knife. She held the scorching blade close to his eyes and hissed, "I will burn, disfigure, and terminate you if you don't wish for what I want." Mbojiso's eyes flew open in terror, his heart racing as he stared at his wife's crazed expression. He stammered, trying to find words, but Njideka silenced him with a sharp look. "Just make a wish," she demanded, her voice low and threatening. "Say, I wish my wife, Njideka, would have the best feminine figure and men will admire her." Shaking with fear, Mbojiso muttered the wish, and instantly Njideka's figure transformed. Her once plain shape became curvaceous and desirable. Her waist cinched, her hips full. Njideka looked down at herself, a wicked smile spreading across her face as she admired her new body. "Now," she said, her voice dripping with malice, "make another wish. Wish for my sister's death." Mbojiso, though still trembling, managed to keep his voice steady. "You have to wait until tomorrow, remember? It's only one wish for a day. And are you so wicked that instead of wishing for money to save this family from poverty, you are wishing for death?" Njideka glared at him and said, "Of course I wanted money, but it was a fool like you who kept wasting the wishes. So I resolved to use the 2 remaining wishes smartly. One for a fine figure and the other for death of my wicked sister, who was always mocking me because of my flat figure. But with this fine figure I have now, I will dump you and marry a rich man. So you see, I am smart." Mbojiso sighed deeply. "You fool! You cannot kill anyone with the wishes. You cannot wish for more wishes. That's what the old man told me." "It's a lie," Njideka snapped. "I want Chiamaka, my sister, dead." "Well, you have to wait until tomorrow," Mbojiso said calmly. Though in his mind, he had fully resolved to wish for a huge pot of gold first thing in the morning, no matter what. Njideka stood in front of the mirror, admiring her new figure. Her twin sons, Emeka and Ikenna, walked in and froze, their eyes wide with shock at their mother's transformed body. They quickly realized what had happened. "Dad, we have an idea," Emeka said, his voice filled with urgency. "What is it?" Mbojiso asked. Ikenna, the other twin, chimed in. "We think you should use your one remaining wish and wish for more wishes." Mbojiso smiled wearily. "You cannot wish for more wishes, my children, and you cannot wish death on another." "You lie," Njideka shouted from the mirror, where she was still admiring her new shape. "Tomorrow morning, you will use the last wish and wish for my sister's death." Emeka and Ikenna exchanged glances. Moving closer to the exit door, they couldn't hold back anymore and began to lambast their mother. "Mama, you are so foolish," Emeka cried. "You wasted all the wishes. Instead of wishing for money, you wish for this nonsense," Ikenna added, throwing his hands up in frustration. Njideka, oblivious to their words, finished her makeup. Smiling at her reflection, she catwalked out of the house, walking into the streets to be admired by the village men. Her walk was slow and deliberate, her hips swaying with every step, her new curves drawing the attention of every man she passed. Eyes widened, jaws dropped, and whispers filled the air as Njideka enjoyed the envious and admiring glances of the villagers. But as she walked down the street, the twins were taking their father Mbojiso to a hidden location to hide him until the next day to prevent Njideka from manipulating the last wish. The twins wanted their father to use the last wish and wish for bags of money and gold. But as they walked, Mbojiso's eyes fell on his wife, surrounded by men who were looking at his wife lustfully. Anger began to boil within Mbojiso. All the pent-up frustration and humiliation he had endured because of her came rushing back. He remembered the wasted wishes, the arguments, the threats. The twins noticed their father's growing agitation and tried to drag him away, but they were too small to move him. Out of sheer frustration and spite, Mbojiso shouted, "I wish my wife would make a huge fart right now, and as she's farting, her old flat figure will return." The words had barely left his mouth when a loud, unladylike fart echoed through the street. Njideka froze in horror as the sound seemed to reverberate off the walls. The villagers who had been admiring her just moments ago burst out into laughter, pointing and jeering. To Njideka's utter dismay, her newly acquired curves began to deflate, her body shrinking back to its former flat shape. Humiliated, Njideka ran home, tears streaming down her face as the mocking laughter followed her. The twins stood in shock, realizing their father had wasted the last wish. Mbojiso, now overcome with regret, walked to a lonely bush and sat down, tears flowing freely. He cried bitterly, chastising himself for letting his emotion get the better of him. He had misused the last wish, and now their chance at a better life was gone. As he wept, the old man who had given him the 7 wishes appeared before him. The old man's eyes were filled with wisdom as he spoke. Mboji Sochiku, your name means when God deems it fit. So, my son, God will bless you in due time. You are a good man, but you need to brave up. Go back home, be strong, and handle your family like a man. Njideka, your wife, has learned her lesson, and if you stand your ground as a man, she will start to respect you. Do not give up. Honesty always pays. You don't need wishes to succeed in life. All you need is hard work and tenacity. With those words, the old man disappeared, leaving Mbojiso alone with his thoughts. Slowly, he wiped his tears, feeling a new sense of resolve washed over him. He stood up, straightened his shoulders, and began the walk back home. He knew that he made mistakes, but he also knew that he could be a better man. He remembered his late mother's words. "Mbojiso, my son," she would always say, "strive to be a better man every day." And with the thought of his mother's love and the belief she had in him, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges that lay ahead, resolving to build a better life for his family through his own strength and determination.